Well, guess what? If you haven't noticed, I'm a little bit smaller. So I have had the baby. So I was just going to give you an update on how the delivery went with the fibroids. Sometime before delivering the baby, I had asked my doctor, I said, so am I the first person that you've worked with that had like a large fibroid when you were delivering? She said, no, but you're the first that had so many. Um, and so it was just interesting when she said that. It's like, oh, okay. So she already planned a C-section because at week 38 he was breached. So she said, okay, we're going to take him out at 39 weeks, a week before my official due date, but he still would be considered full term. She wanted to get him out sooner than later, and I was not complaining. Now, I did not originally want a C-section, of course, who wants one? But I said, the good news is instead of like going a vaginal birth and then there being complications, with a planned C-section, I know when everything's happening and it's just very controlled. My doctor wanted to make sure that I was not going to have excessive bleeding, so she had blood on file. She also had me take some medicines. She had me injected with some medicines beforehand, and then afterwards I had to take Lovenox shots for 14 days. Not exciting. But anyway, the day came for the delivery. I really, I guess I had some contractions. I didn't at first realize they were contractions, but I wasn't having any like major contractions on the day of delivery. I wasn't really in labor. It was just a planned C-section. So we went to the hospital, and everything started happening as they planned for it to happen. When it was time to go into the operating room, I had to get the epidural, and they were going to do, I think, a combination of an epidural and a spinal, but I don't know if she tried to do the spinal block first, and that wasn't going the right way, so then she did an epidural. Whatever the case, that was probably the most traumatic part of the actual surgery, because it was like, what on earth are you doing? After that, I was on the table. They started, they kind of started cutting me open early, and I really did not notice the time going by, but before I knew it, there was a baby. They had lifted out. My husband was able to catch pictures of him. I heard him cry, and it was not that bad. I was a little bit out of it because of the medications that they were putting through your system. Anywho, my son did go to the NICU because they were trying to regulate his breathing, make sure he was breathing just fine, and he did have some extra fluid inside of his lungs, and they said that's most likely because of having a C-section. He didn't have a chance to be pushed through the birth canal to get that liquid out, and so after the C-section, I had to go into the post-operation room, or whatever, the recovery room, for 2 hours. They monitored me for 2 hours, and right after that 2 hours had completed, I was wheeled down to the NICU to see my son. I was able to hold him. I don't really recall feeling much pain at that point. I mean, I guess there's still medications going through me. I was just extremely exhausted. And even, during the surgery and really right after the surgery, I was so exhausted. I just wanted to take a nap. But I really couldn't take a nap because they kept coming in every 15 minutes to check on me. I did not have any excess bleeding. So it was nothing, no complications happened. So I saw my son in the NICU. We were down there for a few minutes. I mean, I don't even think it was a whole 20 minutes. And then we went to my postpartum room. And so we stayed in there, I guess, for most of the rest of the day. And then by that night, I guess I would have gotten out of the bed. They wanted me to walk a little bit. So I think I would have gotten out the bag, so I'm sure we went at 11 at night down to the NICU to see our son. But anyway, so just to talk about how the fibroids went, the delivery was fine. After the delivery, I was in the hospital for 4 nights, and they were monitoring me. They kept noticing that I didn't have a lot of bleeding, and I told them, I said, even before, I didn't have a lot of bleeding before I got pregnant. So bleeding was never my issue. I didn't have to get any iron infusions. I didn't have any blood transfusions. My iron was good. They did check my blood. They drew some blood and then did lab work. Everything was fine. The biggest thing that wasn't fun was on the 3rd day. So I had the baby on a Friday. That Sunday, I started getting gas pains. And I had watched some videos of people that had myomectomies and C-sections, and they talked about this gas pain. And so what's happening is it's like there's this gas that's trapped from getting all sewn up and whatnot and having that surgery, that abdominal surgery, and it was painful. And on top of that, when I was breastfeeding and pumping, that was causing my uterus to contract, and I was experiencing a lot of cramps. With the C-section, once they kind of put that medicine through you and kind of shut some processes down in your body, it takes a moment for you to get the ability to do all the processes back. So I had a urinary catheter in the day of the surgery, and they didn't take it out until 7 the next morning. So my surgery was at around 1 o'clock. So they took the catheter out the next morning, and so then I had to figure out how to pee after that normally, and then the following day, again, was a Sunday. I hadn't had a bowel movement, so it's like all of that had to happen, and so my abdomen was full, and then I had the gas pains, and then I was breastfeeding and pumping, and so all of that was just a very uncomfortable day that Sunday. So really that was the worst thing, and a doctor came and saw me that day, and she said, look, if you're looking like this tomorrow, you will not be discharged. And I really wasn't impressed, because I'm like, my son's still in the NICU. I'd rather us leave the hospital together. And so anyway, fast forward, we did leave the hospital at the same time. He actually was able to leave before I was able to leave, and that's because his doctor was making sure that he was ready, and my doctor was out of town, so I had to work with the on-call doctor. But we eventually got discharged. Some of the pains that I felt were from having a vertical incision. As a result of, I guess, the placement of the fibroids maybe, she decided to do a vertical incision instead of the typical bikini incision that most C-section patients will get. So I had staples that were keeping my skin connected. I was very scared while in the hospital, and even after that, to sneeze or cough, because I just felt like I was going to put so much pressure on the staples, and I was going to just be in so much pain. Thankfully, I was able to avoid coughing and sneezing. And by the time I did cough, some days later, like it was after we had left the hospital, I was doing very small coughs, like, and it wasn't as bad. So here I am, 5 weeks after the operation, and I am thankful that I didn't have any complications with the delivery. I did not have any excess bleeding. The doctor saw me several times, and she's cleared me. Things there are fine. On the other hand, I do have very visible, like my stomach is still distended. It might still look like I'm pregnant. So it's going to be a little journey for these fibroids to shrink. But my doctor has told me, and things that I've read have told me, that the more you breastfeed, if you keep doing that, the fibroids will shrink. I have also gone to a plant-based diet, and so I am not doing the meats and things like I was doing before. And this is really in line with what I was doing beforehand. Before I got pregnant, I hardly ate meat. I did eat it from time to time, but just not much. So I am going to try and do some things a little different. My auntie told me about Chef Aki's fibroid elimination diet, so I'm going to try that. The other thing I will say is just in the aftermath of the delivery, I'm so blessed with our son, and my husband is so supportive, and I have a great family that is very supportive as well. The one thing that has shocked me is how many people ask me, so what are you going to do about those fibroids? I probably am not excited about hearing this question all the time, because at the end of the day, you don't know. It's just like, well, I'm going to try and live right now. I'm going to try and enjoy my son. I'm going to try and breastfeed. I'm going to try and do those things that I should do first, and then we'll cross that bridge later. I do believe that my stomach is going to go down. I can definitely say when I first came out of the surgery, my stomach was still very large, but I had less pressure because things had dropped, and obviously my son was out and all the amniotic fluid had been taken out. And I think it's gotten smaller, even since then, but it's a process. Took me 9 months to get this big, and as big as I did, and I know it's a process for things to come back down. I feel fine to get up and do things, move around. Now I'm not running and doing a whole lot of jumping or anything like that, but I can walk quickly, I can get up, I get down on the ground if I need to, I fold clothes. I've really been blessed with those things, and really the only pain that I may have felt from the fibroids has been if things were putting pressure on them. For example, elastic in pants, if that's sitting right on one of the fibroids, that will cause a little discomfort, but even that is getting better from day to day. And then I also try to wear clothes like dresses so that I don't have those pant lines. But again, things are going well, and I just wanted to share this with you guys because I know a lot of people look at the situation and think, oh, it's going to be horrible. Oh, it's going to be really bad. And it wasn't. God is good. I know I have those people that pray for me, continue to pray for me, and I am so thankful for that. And I'm so thankful that God brought forth this life. It's really nothing that I did, because I even felt like stuff I was eating was crazy during the pregnancy, but God is good. God is good. So be encouraged. Stay prayed up. Keep the faith. Keep hope alive. Thanks for watching this journey. Talk to you later.